Hey everybody, this is Dwight Peters from quarterwaters.com, the site for social entrepreneurs. Where social entrepreneurs come on the program, they talk about the issue they're tackling, the impact they're making, and share helpful business tips along the way. It's been a while, but we are back. Today on the program, I have with us Spencer Taylor. He is the Chief of Business Development and co-founder of Launcht.com. Launcht.com is a crowdfunding site for social entrepreneurs by social entrepreneurs. Spencer, welcome to the program, man.
Thanks so much for having me, Dwight. It's good to be here.
Awesome, man. I gave my viewers a little brief insight as to what Launch is. A crowdfunding site for social entrepreneurs by social entrepreneurs. But it's a little bit more than that. Just give my viewers that aren't familiar with Launch.com exactly what it is.
Sure. So my business partner and I, Freeman White, started out, and we wanted to essentially be the Kickstarter for social entrepreneurs, for lack of a better way to put it. And as we came into the space and started looking around, we realized that there were a ton of kind of existing affinity networks within the social entrepreneur space, much like Quarter Waters, communities that are built around social entrepreneurship that had existing ties. And as we started building out kind of, partnerships with these organizations, we realized that they were all really, really interested in crowdfunding, how they can use crowdfunding to kind of, activate their base. And so as we were having these conversations, we kind of thought to ourselves, okay, well, rather than try and create an entirely new space over here for kind of, being the Kickstarter of social entrepreneurship, why don't we take all these existing spaces that already exist, give them crowdfunding, and allow them to leverage that to kind of activate their base. So we went through, as so many startups do, we went through a pivot. Where we went from being kind of, a B2C company to really looking over and kind of switching over to being a B2B company. Right. So acting as a technology provider in a white label fashion so that, organizations like Quarter Waters could take the Launcht platform, wrap their branding around it, and then run it as their own within their own network. So that's kind of main thrust of it. So you might have used a Launch site in the past, but you didn't know it was Launcht because it was branded to one of our many partners that we have.
All right, cool. So, for any social entrepreneur out there that wants to, get that startup capital without giving away any equity, that wants to crowdfund their project, they will go to launch.com and start a campaign and create that. Or on the flip side, if you have a community and you want to create a community that can do the crowdfunding, you can also do the white label procedure, correct?
Precisely.
All right, so cool. So we got a clear understanding of that. But bring us back to the original, bring us back to the beginning. You guys just launched a couple of years ago, correct? In 2010. Sure. So you guys are fairly new.
Yeah.
But bring us back to the original conversation, the first conversation that sparked you and your co-founder into saying, hey, we might have something, or even we need to do something and let's create something.
Sure, great. Yeah. Well, I think it's a story that's probably relatively familiar at some stage for a lot of people. Freeman and I knew each other from college, and we graduated. We went off, and I was the business development manager for a boutique website firm, web design firm up in Burlington, Vermont, working with them. And I was working with they had a vertical within real estate. Okay. So I was basically acting as a technology provider and a point of contact in the kind of real estate world. And for me, helping realtors help Americans achieve the dream of homeownership was not quite enough to feed myself. Shocking. So I was kind of trying to look around and see what else I could do. I volunteered. I was on the executive board of a lake-based community center. I was doing other things to try and give my life a little more meaning. But so I was doing that, and Freeman was working as a cloud CRM Salesforce consultant. So basically taking Salesforce and integrating it to big corporations, so doing a lot of data migration and stuff like that. So we both had a relatively technical background, and we were both in jobs that we didn't find terribly fulfilling. We had talked, we'd kind of stayed in touch in college. We had all of these sorts of business ideas. One time we were talking about kind of developing methane digesters for restaurants in New York City, for example, and having all these ideas. And actually Freeman started out with the whole launch concept with another co-founder. And that kind of, and they kind of moved through, and that guy ended up moving on. And I actually kind of first learned about Launcht on Freeman's Facebook page, kind of heard about what he was doing. They gave him a call. I was like, hey man, this sounds like a great concept. Like, let's talk about it. And, it was, he had naturally has more of kind of a back end view on things. I naturally have a kind of front end user experience and sales aspect on things. So we had this kind of natural meshing of our skill sets that came together really effectively. And that's how we began on Launcht. And really, it's if passion was all it took, then one undergrad class could change the world's problems. But it's all about implementation. So for a long time, we were doing it nights and weekends. A side project. We were bootstrapping, kind of using our own funds to kind of bring it into the world. We got a kind of a beta client we worked with, and then everything started summer of 2010. And as of the first of this year, we got a little bit of investment from a friends and family round that really allowed us to go after it full time.
All right, cool. I really want my viewers to get the true. I don't want them to miss anything. I don't want to leave anything out, because I think every step of the social entrepreneur's journey is important. There's two things you talked about that I want to talk on. One, you said that you got a beta client. Bring us back to that.
Sure.
Can you share with us who the beta client was, or more importantly, how did you go about getting the beta client? Was this something big?
Well, it's a lot of you've got this concept, but to kind of bring this concept to the world, you need proof that it works. Yeah. So that first beta client is totally key, and chances are you're probably going to give it away to the beta client. But having that kind of stamp of that someone's used it and it's worked has been great. So we worked with the William James Foundation. People in the social entrepreneur world might know them because they run an annual social entrepreneurship business plan competition. And Freeman actually made the connection with them through kind of, various social entrepreneur networking events and kind of, existing affinity networks. Started talking with them. They were interested in using crowdfunding as a component of the business plan competition. They wanted their contestants to be able to access their bases and essentially kind of, have them drive success. So the way that they did it is kind of, we created a white label platform for them. If anyone wants to read more about this, you can go to launch.com. It's Launch with a T, and then it's in our case studies. We have William James Foundation. And the way they did it is that the top fundraisers in the crowdfunding round were fast-tracked to the finals of the business plan competition. So that's how, It started out through old-fashioned networking, pressing the flesh and talking to people and kind of making connections. And then, they kind of were willing to take a risk with us, and they were, very understanding, because of course in development it takes time. And that's how we got that first beta client. Just incredibly useful for us.
No, definitely. So you guys were able to get that. What did you guys learn from that, and what changes did you guys make to Launch, if any? But what did that teach you about your product?
Sure. I'm all about data, especially online. There's no reason to guess about anything. Everything can be tracked. So I love data. And until you have a client, you don't have any data. So we kind of came into the William James one with a lot of notions about what was going to work, what wasn't going to work, how things were going to be structured, how people were going to use it, all these different. And the best thing was criticism. We got a lot of criticism out of it, both from William James Foundation, so what we call our platform host, and also from fundraisers. They had 35 businesses, socially responsible businesses, raising money on the platform. And so saw successes, saw failures, and got a lot of really rich feedback. But it was also, so from that perspective, kind of, it took the ideation phase and added a lot of data so we could actually have some reality. Yeah. But it was also incredibly rewarding, because when you're working on a concept, you're working in this fictional void of everything. It's all about what's going to happen. But actually seeing it happen was really rewarding. So that was incredibly important.
What was some of the feedback that you guys took, or what was some of the most important feedback? Some of the feedback that you said, okay, we definitely need to work on this.
Sure. So a lot of it had to do with information architecture. So we're in a kind of a tricky situation because we're building a platform that needs to be really flexible for a bunch of different uses. Yeah. And so we actually saw how that flexibility needed to be implemented. There was a lot of stuff within the system where we had just hard coded it in, and we hadn't realized that people were going to need to change that. People were going to need to work with it. And then we got tons of feedback about layout, about kind of user experience, and this isn't working or this is rough. And so what's great about being online, and what's great about kind of the kind of social mediazation of the world, is that everyone loves giving opinions and being pundits. So you've essentially got a 24/7 focus group to kind of test your concept. And what I'm talking about is obviously very kind of tech based.
Yeah.
So if you're working in more of a services industry, it would be kind of an offline version. But after that first beta client, we kind of got a free survey from SurveyMonkey and sent it out to everyone who had been involved, all the fundraisers. Got their feedback, and after that, we're able to kind of mine that for actionable changes that we can make. And what's really exciting is that we're about to roll out version 2.0 literally in like a couple days. And it has a lot of the changes that we made and the flexibility we built in. We learned from that first beta client.
Awesome, awesome. So you guys get through the beta. Did you guys quit your jobs yet? Because you guys were
We
still,
did.
you mentioned that you were doing this nights and weekends.
Yeah.
At what point did you guys say, you know what, we're going to take a full plunge into this?
It was basically the first of the year. We got a little bit of friends and family
This
investment.
year? First of this year?
Yes, first of this year.
Congrats.
Full time. Thank you. It's good. It's fun. So Freeman and I both have wives. We're both in our early 30s, so we're not like right out of college able to like live on nothing.
Yeah.
So we had to be responsible for that. So we sought out a little friends and family investment. We got enough to really go after it full time.
And how much is enough?
I mean,
Are you guys allowed to share, or?
I can't really share the exact number, but I mean, it depends on a lot of things. So, I'm a firm believer that the first thing you need to do is you need to pay yourself a livable wage, because this has to be sustainable. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So you kind of figure out what your livable wage is, and then you look at what kind of length of time you're going to need to really get some traction and make this happen. And then you also have to look at programming expenses. So if you're working with contract programmers, if you don't have tech in-house, how much you're going to have to pay them. And you have to go through a deliberate process of how much is enough to make it like have a real go of it. Because the last thing you want is you want to kind of access your friends and family, have them give you money, and then it not be enough, have that fail, and then have Thanksgiving dinner be awkward for the rest of your life. So being deliberate about that process is very key.
Awesome. So you guys take the plunge. You guys are committed to this at the beginning of the year. What next? What have you guys learned from January till now?
Well, going after it full time is just like a totally different world. I mean, to have you're doing it during business hours. You're talking to people. You are and when it has your full attention, you're in to win it. This is what you got. And so we spend the rate at which things have happened has been just incredible. We're about, as I said, we're about to roll out our 2.0 release. We're talking about kind of, moving in a couple other directions. So as before I mentioned, we've got Launcht.org for social entrepreneurs, our white label business, and then we're going to branch out to another spot as well. We've seen kind of leads start to really roll in at a much faster rate, and then earned media. Taking the time to being really active on social media outlets allows you to get more visibility in the space and start to really kind of bring in earned media, which then, of course, is a positive feedback loop and gives you more leads. And then the other thing is that Freeman lives outside of Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia,
Okay.
and I live in Boston, and so we've been remote, which has been a real challenge. Working out of your home by yourself with someone else, calling them it's difficult to keep that energy going. So we've gotten very good at using Skype. Video chats are key, but also we've made sure to kind of have that in-person time. So kind of I'll go down there for a week. He'll come up here for a week. We're actually just at the end of a month where he's been living here, which has been just a complete boon to the business. But yeah, so it's been huge, and that's kind of we're at that inflection point where things are really starting to happen, and it's really exciting. And I don't think we couldn't have done it if we hadn't gone after it full time. So unless you have it has your full focus, you can't really get there.
Totally agree. I just quit my job last week Friday, jumping into my new social venture. You talked about earned media and how important that is, especially for a startup. You don't want to spend money on marketing. You don't want to spend money on chasing media. What steps did you guys take, or what tactics did you guys use to get that earned media?
Sure. So my background when I was doing biz dev for that little boutique marketing firm, it was all about inbound and all about social media. So we have spent a lot of time kind of more on Twitter than on Facebook because Twitter is really a market outreach tool. So getting a lot of visibility in there, finding the hashtags of what that people are talking about, and then really just being smart. I mean, that's the good thing about kind of modern marketing is that you're building a big magnet, and if you have the best magnet about your topic, then people are going to come to you. So what's kind of unique about us is that we've been defining a business, but also defining an industry. Equity crowdfunding, the Equity Crowdfunding Act was part of the Jobs bill that was passed.
Yeah.
And Freeman White was my co-founder, was down there doing a tremendous amount of lobbying, working with Senate offices to kind of get the language drafted and kind of move this all through. So we got a lot of visibility there, but also it was challenging because it's pretty much undefined.
Yeah.
We're trying to kind of forge a path where there's no land for the path to be on yet. But it did give us a huge boost in visibility because it was a very hot topic. When the Jobs bill signed, we got featured in the New York Times Small Business blog, and that came out of good old-fashioned networking. We got quoted numerous times in the National Journal, and that was someone who went online, searched for equity crowdfunding, and found us because I had optimized a page on our website to kind of capture that traffic. And then Freeman was featured on NPR's Marketplace, good old Kai Ryssdal. And so we got just a tremendous amount of kind of exposure there. And that is, I frequently say that pitch is dead. With these days, it's all about kind of media-rich and content-rich educational marketing. And earned media is you're setting yourself up as a trusted advisor. So you're not trying to be like, hey, I really know what I'm talking about. You're in the Times or you're in the National Journal, you're on NPR, and people are like, oh, well, these people obviously know what they're talking about. And so we saw a lot of things hockey stick when that happened. And earned media outreach, basically building relationships with reporters and news outlets in your market is the best use of your time you could possibly have.
Awesome. So that's very helpful for any startup. So I liked how you put it. You're building you're trying to build the biggest magnet, and if it's strong enough, things will stick to it. Now let's get into the keeping it sustainable part. What is your business model? How do you guys make money off of this and keep it going? We understand Kickstarter. Kickstarter takes a percentage of all the funds that's raised. Start Some Good, which is another crowdfunding site for social entrepreneurs. They take a percentage of the crowdfunding that's raised. How do you guys, or how is your business model structured?
Sure. So we've got two. We've got the business customer, Launcht.org, and that's very similar to the crowdfunding sites. We take a percentage of all funds raised, and that's basically how it works. Kickstarter started it, and there's a standard within the industry where you kind of can't get above 10% of all funds raised withheld. So people balk at that, but kind of anywhere between 6 and 8% is kind of an industry standard. So that's the profit margin that you work within. And then with our partners, we've got to go about that in a different way because, of course, a lot of them are social enterprises looking to kind of create an income from the existing affinity network. So they need to take that percentage of all funds raised. And like any startup, we've worked through a number of different pricing models. And that is one of the key places where data makes all the difference in the world. Because people are like, what? We went through I look back at some of our pricing models, and a few of them early on I'm just like, oh, how do we even think that was going to work? So the way that we do it is that, Quarter Waters comes to me, and you want to start a crowdfunding platform for your network. There's a setup fee. And then there's an ongoing monthly licensing fee. We it's a hosted solution, which means that it kind of lives on our servers. And so the benefit to you, to partners, is that there are no technical requirements, and we're able to roll out updates easily, system wide. And so there's that upfront. There's the ongoing licensing fee, and then of course we have to kind of think about volume. So, let's say you start a platform and you have 20 projects and 500 transactions a month. That's going to take less time and less space in our servers to support than if you had 500 projects and 20,000 transactions a month. So we also have we just take 1% of all funds raised as a float to account to kind of aggregate for that use.
Okay.
And what it allows you to do, what it allows our partners to do, is kind of anticipate expenses and leaves a larger share of that kind of percentage withheld for them to create income out of. And that's what we've found has been kind of the best balance. But pricing takes some time to figure out, especially when you're working at it kind of from a social entrepreneur standpoint.
No, great. Totally understand that one. In my mind while you're talking, what I really enjoy the most about these interviews is when I hear the challenge, that gut wrenching, holy crap, what did I just do? Man,
Yeah.
I'm in for a world of trouble right now. Bring us back to that moment. You guys, we talked about some of the challenges so far, about the, pricing or, the beta tests and even, quitting your job and raising money from friends and family. But at what point did you have to question yourself, like, holy crap, what am I doing? But you found, you guys kept the motivation to keep going.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of those moments.
And I
Quitting.
love that. I love when social entrepreneurs are honest about that, because this is not a walk in the park, and I don't want my viewers to get, misdirected and
Pie
think
in the
this is
sky.
easy.
Yeah.
This is going to be probably one of the hardest things you ever try to do.
I think we threw it out on Twitter a while ago, but someone put out on Twitter, when I hear that someone wants to be an entrepreneur, I hear that they want constant volatility, gut-wrenching tension, and a complete lack of knowledge of the future. And that's essentially what it is. So quitting the job is a big one. That's kind of taking the plunge. A big moment was, getting that initial investment so we could actually do that. But there have been a couple times where we've, especially when you're kind of working with a really slim budget, you're like, okay, I need to do this, and I don't have enough money to do this, but I have to do this. So what am I going to do? So
give us an example. Can you give us an
yeah,
example?
So we, Freeman and I are both kind of front end guys. We're business guys, so we're not programmers.
Yeah.
So we've been having to work with contract programmers, which we've gotten very lucky with a couple and gotten unlucky with some as well. And so there have been a couple of those unlucky ones where we had deadlines. We had these beta clients who were great, but delicate. You have to kind of coddle them. And we had some of these guys who just disappeared off the face of the map. We missed delivery dates, and we're like, all right, if we lose this beta client, that's just like a massive setback.
Screwed, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So scrambling like all get out to be like, okay, how do we manage expectations? How do we find someone else to do this work? And so those moments of oh God are big. And then also the whole, it's not very sexy, but the cash wall. We got this investment that's going to carry us to a certain point, and after that, we either need to raise more or we need to have income. So having that wall, you are speeding at as fast as you can go on your mission, and there's a wall that you're playing chicken with, and and luckily right now we're pushing that wall back because we're getting new clients, things are happening, and it's great, but the knowledge that wall is there, but still going after it with your whole heart. I actually, a big moment for me personally was that I had a company that I love and would love to work for call me up and say, hey, we want to give you a full-time job. That was like a month and a half ago, because back when we first started, I knew I wanted to leave my job, so I was talking to them, but I was also doing this.
Yeah.
And they called me like, hey, we're ready to go. Like, we want to hire you. Boom. And they are this awesome web design shop that only works for, political and social movements. It would have been like
Dream job.
And I was like, huh. I was like, all right, well, I've got something I'm super passionate about that I'm working on, but there's a wall in the future. Or I've got this other business that I would love to work for that would be, benefits, and there'd be an office. Security, exactly. But it would still be rewarding. And so sending that, kind of typing out that email to the contact and then hitting send, saying, no thanks, I'm doing my own thing, that was a big moment for me too. Because that's just emotionally investing in what you're doing and making sure of it. And so those are, I'd say you have, as an entrepreneur, in a startup, you have constant outs. You're constantly being like, well, this could just go by the wayside, and that would be a fun experiment. And, reinvesting yourself in it. constantly, which is what you have to do. It's like it's a constant gut check. It's like, so how do you feel about it now? And if you're not 100%, then you're not going to make it. So that is, those have been some moments for me for sure.
Awesome, man. You bring up an interesting point, because you guys are, to extent, outsourcing the programming work, correct?
Correct.
So, and I know a lot of my viewers, I've been given,
Just straight. We're outsourcing it to Philadelphia.
okay, so you're outsourcing in Philadelphia. All right, cool. Because that's a question I get a lot. Aspiring social entrepreneurs that send me emails, they're not technical. They want to, outsource the technical aspect of the idea they're working on. So when you guys do look for contractors to contract this stuff out, what do you guys look for? How do you guys avoid now having that experience? The shaky ones, the ones that's not going to get the work done on time.
Yeah. Well, we're just bringing on a kind of a CTO, so we're actually now at the point where we can bring that in house, which is totally key. But it's it's a crapshoot. You can go the route, if you have a ton of money, you can go the route of hiring a consultancy. It's going to charge you a ridiculous amount of money and build it for you. Build it for you, right? You'll have a project manager and a point of contact. There'll be a nice structure. Or you can essentially throw it out to the Craigslist guys and say, this is what I'm looking for. What do you got? And it depends. And then you also balance. You're like, okay, well, can I pay or am I offering equity? What's that breakdown? So just like data, like previous work, kind of really look at what they've done before and see if that makes sense for you. Because it can be, so we definitely took some pretty serious missteps. But I'll send that blog post along too. I wrote a blog post on the Launcht blog about how to structure your socially responsible tech startup. And a lot of people try and kind of do proof of concept tech stuff way too early. Before a possible pivot. And you need to stay nimble in the beginning because just like us, we had this concept of what we were going to do and then we realized it was totally wrong. There are a lot of stages that you need to work through before you get to that tech point. And by the time you get, but you should be vetting people. I'm sorry, my laptop's running a little low on juice. I'm going to have to go grab my plug. But, kind of working through that and, finding those people that they need to believe in your mission a little bit. That usually helps get the price down, the hourly price down, which is key. But finding that balance. But we honestly our two contract programmers we've had the most success with. One of them was a personal contact of mine, and the other one we just threw this down on Craigslist, and he answered the ad, and he's awesome. So it can happen. It could happen to you.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
it's like
Spence, man, I think. Go again. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It's just like winning the Craigslist lottery.
There we go. Man, I think we touched on a lot of things in this interview. Is there anything we're leaving out?
Just the fact that I think, marketing, be experts. Be experts, demonstrate knowledge, and give people ways to interact more with you. Drive them from Twitter and Facebook to your blog where you sound smart and you know what you're talking about, and then drive them to your value proposition, and then drive them to your contact page. A lot of people they've got this great idea, but they don't know how to package it into a consumable product, and you really got to make it easy for people to buy what you're selling. Which a lot of people forget to do, and you're like, I've got this great concept. Why isn't anyone making this step? And because you need to package it to sell. It needs to be digestible to people. And so working on that elevator pitch, both your online elevator pitch and your offline, it's way more than creating a cute 15, 20-second, 1-minute video with a bunch of cartoon characters talking about what you do. You need to have real substance behind it, and that is having a blog with readership is worth its weight in gold.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Spence Taylor from Launcht.com. Spence, thanks for coming on the program, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Dwight. Have a great day. Talk to you all soon.